Hey guys, what's going on? Inception here, and welcome to another video. Ladies and gentlemen, we're doing some discussion videos today because the promo for the last 2 days have been super boring. Honestly, I don't even know why I reviewed those cards. I just did for... It's just, you know what it is? You know when you're in the motion of like going to the gym every day, or you just have like this this thing that you do every day. It's just like this consistency in your brain. That's probably the reason why I did those reviews, honestly. But generally speaking, the last 2 days, the SBCs have been really boring, right? People already checked out and they're just checking out other stuff at this point, right? So another discussion video. We already did the one for the foot captain. So if you guys haven't checked that out, be sure to do so. But now we're going to be doing it for the foot heroes. Now, apparently this team is going to be coming out within the next 2 weeks. This is going to be the upgraded version of these cards, right? So I'm assuming that it's going to be an entirely new team. It's not going to be like, oh, I have a Robbie Keane in my team, let him get upgraded, right? Not going to be like that, right? But on these cards being new, you know, some of them actually had some pretty decent capabilities in the beginning of the year. Some of them died out midway, and then some of them are just completely unusable nowadays. But now with the upgrades for the new versions of cards, definitely some cool stuff to look forward to. So the first one here, guys, is going to be the Natale card. So Natale, there was a certain point this year that I did actually end up trying him out. Didn't do a review for him because, like I said, I didn't have the facilities for it in the beginning of the years. But now we're kind of like good to go with that kind of stuff. But with Natale, guys, you know, this guy was someone that most people just gave the Hawk chemistry style to. Now, why did they give him the Hawk chemistry style? Because, guys, he has 97 acceleration, which is great to use through the middle, right? So one of your strikers, one of two strikers, you know, playing in the cam position, anywhere through the middle, the card was great to use, right? Because look at his shooting stats with the Hawk chemistry style. It's in the high 90s area. So you already know that this card with the shooting that he has, with the outside foot shot trait and the finesse shot trait, you can genuinely use this card in the game nowadays, right? And his body type, to be honest with you, is not that bad. Like, I don't actually mind that his agility is at an 87. For him and the way that he performs in game, it wasn't a problem at all. So with this new version coming out for the upgraded card, there's so much potential to work with, right? I don't know what they're going to be doing to them. I wonder if they're going to give them like a weak foot adjustment or some skill moves as well as the upgraded stats that they give. But to be honest with you guys, just with this Natale card as it is, the main things is just the base stats being improved in certain areas of the card. Like with dribbling, that is going to be the main parts, because honestly, he's really good at doing everything else. But the passing being increased will definitely be a huge plus. The stamina for the game nowadays especially will definitely be a huge plus. If they can bring it up to like an 87 or an 88, it would be fantastic, because Natale this year is a very good card from base characteristics. So if he gets the right upgrades, he has those shooting traits that he's already working with, the card is going to be phenomenal. Probably going to be super expensive for those of you that want to do some Serie A teams, but yeah, definitely going to be that type of card. The next card that we have is the Ljungberg card, right? So with Ljungberg, I'm going to be honest with you. So in the beginning of the year, it wasn't bad to use this card. It just obviously wasn't ideal either, because you guys know me, I'm an engine chemistry style fiend. I will give it to every single card in this game if I have to, because the dribbling is awful. But the engine chemistry style on this Ljungberg card, right? I actually enjoyed using him, but that was only in the beginning of the year, because the pace, you know, didn't matter as much. You know, players nowadays, they have like 99, so it's like, yo, chill. Like I need to, you know, be able to run at least a little bit, you know? So this card on an engine, I had him one time in a draft, and I'm going to be honest, I was even collecting footage from it, from the draft, and he was scoring a bunch of goals for me. But that's because the meta of the game was different at the time because of the way his shooting is set up. Now, this card definitely needs some drastic improvements for him to be solid, because obviously with the medium work rates, he is preferable to use in the side positions, but I did at one point in that draft play him through the middle, and he was okay, but he definitely feels like someone that belongs in that left-sided position or right-sided position. The outside foot shot trait, always a huge plus to have in the game, with that 4-star weak foot on that left side or the right side, genuinely doesn't matter. With this card, it's really tough to say what they're going to do with the upgrades, because the way that his shooting is set up, I would want to give him a Hawk chemistry style, because if they increase these stats with the pace, with the physical, but then they themselves increase the dribbling by quite a bit to be in the 90s area, but then maybe you would use the balance for what it is, I wouldn't mind that. But these dark greens over here, right? They have to be in the 90s area. Sure, I would maybe work with a composure being at an 84, 85 with an 85 for balance, as long as I'm using a player like this in those side areas, right? So it just depends on how they actually end up upgrading him. Obviously, the passing stats being improved would definitely be massive as well. But the fact that he already has 86 stamina to be used in the side positions is obviously fantastic to work with. This next guy, I'm going to tell you guys about. The hype for this guy was 100% real. Like it was like it completely makes sense as to why people like this card so much, because this card, guys, was honestly monstrous in the beginning of the game. And honestly, if you wanted to get this card right now, he would still be pretty good in the meta of the gameplay. But guys, why is he good in the meta of the gameplay? Because very obvious reasons. If you give this card the Shadow Chemist style, first of all, I don't care about how his dribbling works as body type, because defensively, even though he's 5'8", he defends really well. Obviously, for the meta of this game, it's always better to have physical type defenders as much as possible, right? Players that have the pace as well. Like Team of the Year Marquinhos, incredible. Ruben Diaz and Varane, probably the best to use. Them with Rudiger, because those guys are constantly used because they have the right base stats to be as good as possible. But Cordoba, for a card that was released in the beginning of the year, take a look at his stats. The only thing that's low on dribbling, guys, is actual dribbling when he's like on the ball. But his agility and balance is incredible. Considering he's 5'8", this guy does this constantly. It's like using Conte as a center back. That's what it feels like, right? Now, don't get me wrong, when I was using him sometimes on some people's accounts, because some people had like gameplay objective cards that I was reviewing the Elite Division, man, this guy was just killing it for me, man. He was doing so much good stuff for me that it was just phenomenal to use. Why? Because he has 97 acceleration, 95 for sprint speed. This card is going to be nasty, and I'm going to tell you why he's going to be nasty. Because if they give him a new card, people are going to give him an anchor. And if people give him an anchor, when they boost pace by a +4, probably for each acceleration and sprint speed, and then his base stats for dribbling will be higher, defense and physical will be crazy. Cards like this, guys, super, super fun to use as the left or right-sided center backs. In his case, I'd probably use him as a right center back in like a 3 at the back formation. But even in a formation where you're using a 4-back formation, yes, you'll notice the lack of physical presence and height sometimes. But when we're talking about gameplay compensators, this guy is the guy. Like, he's very, very solid, man. I really enjoyed using him when I was doing that one. I can't remember which review it was. It was a Serie A player. It might have been like a midfielder or a striker, and I was like, dude, this guy's defending everything. Next up is Cole. So Cole, in the beginning of the year, I liked him a lot. I'm going to be honest with you guys. This card was actually pretty solid. Died down, I don't know, like quickly, maybe like 2 months into the game, he died down a bit, maybe. Whereas September, October, November, December, yeah, like once it kind of hit, I think it was like once it kind of hit like December time or just before that, that's when he started to die down a little bit. But if I remember correctly, when I was actually reviewing this card, I gave him 100 chemistry saw, and here's the thing, right? This is why EA needs to find a balance when it comes to upgrading their cards, because this card, I didn't mind his dribbling being as it is, but then at some point you do a lot. You know what I'm saying? Because like, it's not necessarily that you want meta cards, guys. That's not the case, right? You just want players to feel as responsive as possible to this thing. You know what I'm saying? That's what it kind of comes down to. So when you experience that, that's when people start using cards like this less and less, right? I enjoyed using him for what it was. You know, it's a 4-star player. He had 82 stamina. This was perfectly fine to use in the beginning of the year. But just like most of the other cards, if you take a look at his dribbling stats, guys, this is probably going to be a card that on the Hawk chemistry style is actually going to be really solid, because his dribbling right now is low in certain areas when it comes to like agility, balance, reactions for the meta of the game nowadays. But if that's improved to be in the mid 90s area, and then they give him a composure of, I would say, like an 87 maybe, that would be fantastic to work with, 100%. The stamina boost is definitely going to be a requirement too, and then they would even boost the physical too, guys. So even though he's a 5'9" player, that extra physical, that extra aggression, it's always very, very helpful to have, right? Next up is Cahill. I think Cahill, he was like if people packed him, they would use him. In the beginning of the year, like people use like Morientes and stuff, right? So what people did with cards like this, is they would most likely just give him the engine chemistry style and then just use it for what it is, right? But I do consider him mostly fodder. Now, he is a Premier League player, so what they can do with this card is they can just make him, you know, similar to someone like a flashback Icardi, you know? He has the high medium work rate, so obviously it adds a little bit of a different variable there, unless he moves like a flashback Morata's medium. But with Cahill's card, guys, on an engine and chemistry style, to be fair, there is a lot of potential for him to be good as a quote-unquote physical type striker, because if you look at his physical stats at a 92 for aggression, 83 for strength, 84 for stamina, that is already really good to work with from base stats. But even the shooting, the three main ones, the only thing that's going to be low on the card is going to be in the shooting department. Now, I do feel like that no matter what upgrade they give him, you're probably still going to want to give him the engine chemistry style unless they boost the pace like absolutely crazy, right? Because then at that point, you could just give him the finisher chemistry style and he would be great to use with that, right? But yeah, even in the beginning of the year, he was like, I wouldn't say he was fodder, but like for hero cards, they were just expensive for the sake of him giving you the Premier League links for the most part, right? Next up is the Gomez card. To be fair with Gomez, this card was cool to use if you used him in that like physical type way. Like I know people that actually continuously use this card for a very good majority of the year because he was actually like doing okay for them. Like here's the thing, right? With Gomez, you have to get into the position to score. It's not like he's going to be able to dribble his way through, but he was kind of physical oriented in the beginning of the year, right? So in some cases, he would be able to outmuscle somebody. You know, you give him an engine chemistry style as well. His base card stats for shooting is already in a very good area with attacking, positioning, finishing, and shot power. So people who don't mind using cards like this, they enjoyed it for what it was. So very similar situation to the Cahill card. As a physical type striker, there is a ton of potential for a card like this because obviously I still feel like you're going to give him the engine chemistry style, but the shooting stats being increased, the pace stats being increased with a high medium work rate, and then physical being, increased by a lot too, I think is going to be a hugely beneficial thing for a card like this. Because for me personally, I never wanted to use this card in the beginning of the year because I would never use this type of card. But the thing is that in the beginning of the year, guys, players like Lukaku and stuff were actually pretty solid, right? Lukaku in like the first like 2 weeks, 3 weeks of the game was really nice to use. But then, like I said, when EA upgrade cards a certain way, some cards become obsolete. It always starts to go into the agile, I can actually dribble and move properly as much as possible because the game's weird type of meta in the game, right? So that's why people actually liked using Gomez in the beginning. It wasn't too bad, right? It's going to be rough to make him better for the game now, though. It will be really rough, but we'll see what they do, right? The next one's going to be Dempsey. I'm going to be honest with you guys, wasn't crazy about Dempsey for the most part. I did try him out a little bit on somebody's account. I can't remember which review it was, but they had him in the squad because they wanted to get this MLS link to somebody. And yeah, I wasn't too crazy about him at the time because, you know, you give him an engine chemistry style, and it's nice, you know, you boost the pace, you boost the dribbling, you boost the passing. But the thing is that when I tried him at the time, I think I was like maybe 4 or 5 weeks into the game, and I feel like he'd probably be the most usable just before that, right? Because the stats, like I said, you know, players like Lukaku and stuff, this is in a pretty decent area. Like this is okay, right? With the physical, with the shooting being there. As an MLS player though, okay? As an MLS player, it gives you certain links to work with if you want to work with that league, obviously, right? But this card also actually has potential as well because he has a high-low work rate to begin with. He's 6'1", so physical type dude, no problem, right? Could be like a Yarmolenko card, if anything, because the pace is in a good area, the dribbling is in a good area, the shooting is in a good area, the physical, the passing is in a good area. So there's a lot of things that they can do really, really well with this card because I like when the stats are very close to each other where the chemistry style is super obvious to give because that way you know exactly what to give the card and you just work with him for what it is, right? So with the shooting, let's say for instance, they boost each stat by a +5, that would be nuts in my opinion, right? So a couple of things to work with there. This next one, a lot of people did not like this opinion when I reviewed this card, but I didn't like the card that much, right? This Abedi Pele card. So this is going to be like completely down to the person, okay? But I personally was not crazy about him. And it was weird too, because I feel like when you're in the YouTube world, people want every card to be good, but then when you're in the Twitch world, people kind of realize certain cards aren't that great. Like, dude, when I reviewed a Betty Pele, I was doing it on somebody's account. I think it was man, I can't remember. It was, these are like so long ago, right? But when I was reviewing the card on the account, I was like, dude, like this card should perform better than it is. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know if it was mainly because of the medium at the time, because I genuinely don't remember. I just remember not liking him, right? And I even used him in some people's accounts afterwards, and I'm like, dude, it's like I'm doing nothing with him. You know what I'm saying? But obviously, with this card, he could be significantly better as well, because his dribbling is already in a very good area, right? With the upgrade, this card on a Hawk chemistry style, also very good. The shooting is set up a certain way, though, where it is low in certain areas of the card. So let's just say, for instance, they had to boost it by like a +5 in each. The base card stats for pace would also be improved. So that's a very important thing to look at here, because at that point, you would probably just give him a Deadeye chemistry style to boost the shooting as much as possible, the passing, but they need to boost the stamina for you to fit the meta criteria in the middle of the pitch nowadays. Don't get me wrong, the card could be significantly better than when it comes out, but at the time when I was using him, guys, I honestly was not a huge fan. And I wasn't a huge fan mainly because of the price, okay? The price at the time was like 900k, and I'm like, this is not a 900k card, right? If you packed him, though, from the Foot Heroes SBC at the time, not a bad player to pack. I just didn't think he was worth that price at the time, right? So just one of those types of situations, because some people, when they pack these cards, they get all excited, they check out a review, they see that I don't like the card, they look at it from a very like linear perspective, right? They're like, he doesn't like the card, boom, done. They don't even take into consideration, I'm talking about like the price is not that crazy and stuff, right? But yeah, there's potential with him, but like I said, I personally wasn't like too crazy about this guy. And then last but not least is Diego Milito, which again, physical type striker that was usable to use in the beginning of the year, because his base card stats for shooting for the 3 main areas inside the 18-yard box was pretty decent. You know, you give this card an engine chemistry style, you use them in a 2-striker lineup, you can use these types of guys 100%. But for the future, especially with the way that the shooting is currently formatted, they definitely need to make really good improvements to make him as good as possible as a physical type striker. Physical type strikers, guys, like I said, they usually go away from the meta of the game, but you can make them as good as possible, right? It's 100% possible, because, guys, you know Weghorst, right? We did the review. He's probably going to get his upgrade. He's going to be crazy, right? But why don't they make someone like Miroslav Klose like that? It's kind of crazy to me, because Miroslav Klose is an absolute legend, and he should perform similar to a Weghorst card in a game like FIFA, 100%, right? So just stuff like that, like EA really needs to adjust how they handle players like this, because at the end of the day, a rare gold Mbappe is still going to be better than that Weghorst card. The upgrade, I don't know, the upgrade could be kind of nasty, right? But Mbappe is still a card that is absolutely insane compared to everybody. So when you make those types of players, you have to do those types of adjustments like you did to Weghorst to make them as good as possible. You know what was really good about the comparison of that SBC is when I told you guys comparing those two cards, I always mentioned how I liked the Weghorst card more than Richarlison. Like, I always mentioned how Richarlison has a thing to him where, you know, if you did the SBC for 300k and you didn't care about the price, then sure, whatever, right? But Richarlison has that thing in FIFA where he's just not that crazy. And from the players that I used, I enjoyed Weghorst the most, and now he's getting upgraded. So some good stuff there, right? But with Milito, like I said, they definitely need to improve on the physical side of things if they actually improve these types of cards, because they need it to be as usable as possible in the meta of the game. So I don't know why they don't do that more often for the physical type dudes, because they have to, like, to make them as usable as possible in the game. Like, they just have to do that. It's crazy. But yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed the video today. We'll see what the vibes are tomorrow, man. Hopefully it's actually like a good showdown, because the last 2 days have been so boring. I don't even know why I reviewed those cards, to be honest with you. It was just, oh, you know, dude, one of the videos, the German guy, I wasn't even focused on the ending. I'm telling you guys, like 6 minutes into that video, I was checked out because I was so uninterested. And guys, I get uninterested in cards when it makes sense, because you could even tell from the views on the channel, they didn't do that well because people are not interested in those cards. It makes complete sense, right? So yeah, I gotta understand that too, because, you know, you do the SBCs, they cost a certain amount, and you're like, you know, I could do other cards, you know, this card's not really worth reviewing, you know. But it is what it is. You know me, guys. I try to use like different teams as much as possible, but at the end of the day, people are always going to go for meta or cards that are at least good enough to use in the meta of the game, right? Like, it's just kind of how it works. But yeah, hopefully you guys enjoy this video. I'll catch you guys for the next one. Peace out, dudes. Love you guys.